I watched a video from Kelly from at Kelly of Books I'm Not Reading is doing a tag from last year. Kevin Toll reads tag New Year, New Me. So I thought I'd give it a go too. I don't remember if I did it last year. I think I did. I'm not going to go back and revisit it because I'm sure I didn't accomplish any goals. Let me get to the goal list. Actually, this is good for me, even though it's late in January. I always think of my New Year's goals since I'm born in February, since I was born in February, uh, early February. I tend to sort of ruminate in January about what I want to accomplish for the year and really kind of start my goals in February. I've already started some of my non book goals, but anyway. So I will link to Kelly's answers and I'll link to Kevin Toll, of course, who's asked to be tagged on all these. He's sharing some of the new ones. He's excited that people are doing his tag again this year, and I think that's great because it's a good tag. Anyway, here are the prompts. There are 10 of them, 9 of them, including tagging others, which I probably won't do because I'm behind on everything. So I don't know who's done what. Anyway, these are about your goals for books, mostly some other goals as well. Anyway, the first prompt is fears. What is one book from your 2026 reading goals that scares you? And I don't really have any intimidating reading. I guess I can say The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, which is one of the first big books I want to tackle this year. Because I meant to finish it in November, so maybe it's a bit intimidating because of the length, but I really got to figure out when to get on that. I don't want to leave it for another year. And it will also probably lead me to wanting to read other Thomas Mann books. I've only read, well, I read a couple in the past. Years ago, I read Death in Venice and I read um, Buddenbrooks. Those are both great. Buddenbrooks is a full-length novel, and Death in Venice is probably his most famous work. It's a short novella. It's also got a good movie with Dirk Bogarde. But I want to read Magic Mountain. I think I want to read Dr. Faustus. I have them in a combined edition anyway, a combined 99-cent edition. And then maybe this goes along with fears too. When I start reading an author, I tend to want to read everything I can get by them unless I hate them. And so that can be kind of daunting when you go through, especially older authors that have written a lot of big books, and then am I going to read Joseph and His Brothers and all these other Thomas Mann books, which is going to take up a big chunk of the year. So maybe that's a fear. Okay, number 2, patience. What is the one book on your 2026 reading goals you want to start immediately? Darn it, I wrote that one down. Oh, I guess I'll do this. This is kind of I've got Kindle Unlimited for 3 months free again. Every couple of years, they give it 90 days free for me, and I never renew it. But I noticed they've got these Stefan Zweig. I don't know how you say it, Zweig. People probably know him from the Wes Anderson movies, if anything. I mean, if they're non-readers, they probably know him from that. It's a collection of 5-volume collection. A lot of his books are on Kindle Unlimited. It's a 5-volume collection of his short stories and novellas, and there's a couple in here that I've read that I really like. So I just want to get a good handle on his work. That was kind of an impulse borrow. So I do want to start it as soon as I can fit another short story collection into my lineup. And there's other things on there I want to get to soon, but some of them fit more on the other categories. So I'll talk about them there. Okay, so that was patience, number 2. Number 3, growth. What book last year pushed you to reflect and or grow as a reader? Oh, you should have looked that one up too. Well, maybe I'll cheat a little bit on this one and select a book that I actually read in 2026 already, just right around New Year's, called The Lessons of History by Will and Ariel Durant. It is a book they wrote. It's a very short book, around 150 pages or so, long essay. about what they learned from writing their massive 5 or 6 or how many volumes book it is on the history of civilization. And it had a big effect on me. They definitely came to some conclusions which are useful, especially at this time in our history, at this especially dark time in world history and North American history, world history. It's not a great time. Uh, it's not the worst time though, and we'll get through it. And it's affected me in the sense that I need to read a lot more history, and I think everyone should at this time. So we have a better. It's really the only thing we have to go on, uh, or it's the best tool we have to understand what's happening now, uh, and what's going to happen to civilization in the future. It's really the best tool by any to see where we've been. And I need to read a lot more history, so I think it's the most influential thing. I'm definitely going to have to read the Durant's multi-volume books, fit them in somehow, in between all my pulp books and everything that I need to read. So that had a big influence on me. I really haven't even absorbed it yet. It's just been a couple weeks, but it's a very powerful book. You don't need to read their volumes to read this. I don't think, because it's what they took from a multi-year. I don't know how long it took them to write those 6 heavy volumes. Decades, probably a decade and a half. I think they say in the book, but what they came away with the general lessons of history. And some of them are dark, and some of them they're just good to know. They're good to know, and I think we could all use that now. And now I got to get back to the list. I think I'll try and remember to put the names of these in the comments. I probably will forget though. Okay, that was 3 growth. New paths. What is one author you plan to try for the first time in 2026? That would be Anthony Trollope. I could put this in apprehension or fears too, because I've failed many years to get around to Trollope. He's another author with like a bunch of doorstops. I think I would like him. I'm going to do at least the one series that I already own. I forget the name of it. It's not the Barchester's books. It's the Palliser books. I think it's 6 or 7 books. Starts with and I'm going to try those. Okay. And so that is entirely new author to me. Self-care. What is one book and or series you revisit for comfort? Well, I have several that I use, and they're mostly humorous books. I would say any Woodhouse novel, Jeeves and Wooster. I think more for comfort. I believe I like the Blandings Castle books that are more comforting than the Jeeves and Wooster books. Are hilarious and tense. I get because of the type of plots. They're more akin to I would guess I would say action plots or something. The Blandings Castle books are a little more romantic and in terms of getting people married off and sort of benevolent elderly people trying to help out the young lovers and things like that. And so they're very charming. I think they're very popular as well as Jeeves and Wooster, but I think they are mildly underrated because people, of course, want to go to Jeeves and Wooster. Bertie Jeeves and Wooster are just such fantastic, hilarious characters, but the Blandings Castle ones are almost as good, and for certain moods, they're better. But there's others that I always go to for rereads, like I like Donald Westlake. I like any of his humorous novels, and I like his Parker novels written under the name Richard Stark. It's too soon to read those again, and of course, I always go back to. I want to go back again to the Nero Wolfe novels. I've never reread most. I've reread a couple of them. I've read them all at least once, and that is another delightful series that's always comforting and joyful to read. It's humor and mystery, with a lot of suspense, particularly in some of the books. But there's another series I thought of recently, which would be a reread that I think I might want to try and do too. And those are the All Creatures Great and Small novels, which I read when they were first came out and were popular in the States. I believe there's four of them in the US, and I think they're each, I don't know how they're published now, but in the US they're published with all with titles from that old church hymn, all creatures are great and small, all things bright and wonderful, the Lord God made them all, I think. But originally they were, when they were published in the US, they were combined editions of eight eight British memoirs. They would put two and two together, and I think they had like more humorous names, like a vet in the belfry or something. They're what they are. I'm sure you've heard of them. Most of you. It's a very funny series about a young veterinarian, rural. What do you call it? Well, he's a veterinarian who serves farm animals most, and in a rural practice in Yorkshire in the years before World War II or just after World War II, later. And they're tremendously funny and tremendously heartwarming. And I kind of feel like I want to read those. So I might give that a shot if I can, but that's really just something I haven't even looked into. It's not even on my list. So I have a lot of things I read for revisit for comfort, I guess. And right now, of course, I'm in the middle of reading all the Robert E. Howard that I can find, some of which I've read before. Number 6, Forging Ahead. What is your favorite debut book or first book in a series you read last year? I don't know how many. Okay, well, there's these. I just started reading these. I don't know if they're my favorite, though. Oh, no, those are 2026 anyway. My favorite debut or first book in a series you read last year. Well, I don't think I started any new series last year. And I didn't read any first time authors uh, um, that I know of that spring to mind right now. I guess is The Time Machine, H.G. Wells' first book. I think it might have been. I enjoyed that last year. Okay, so I guess I'll skip that. I don't really have one that comes to mind. I have just started reading. I bought. There's a company where you can buy the humble bundles. I think they sell a lot of graphic novels, and I bought all this work by Kazuo Koike, the Lone Wolf and Cub series of manga novels. I read the first two in that; those are pretty good. It's if you've watched the what was the series? One of the Star Wars series, the first one, The Mandalorian, is pretty much ripped off from it. From what I understand, it's similar kind of setup. There's a samurai named the Lone Wolf who's out in the countryside taking assignments, and for some reason he's got this very small child. You don't know right away. He's got this very small child with him. Probably his child, maybe not. At least at the beginning, we understand, and so he's always got this little child in the basket, and he's doing this kung fu stuff. I mean, he's doing this samurai stuff. It's interesting. There's recently, I think it was what was from the head of DC Comics or Marvel Comics, talking about how manga is so much more popular than DC Comics right now. And he basically admits that, and he's trying to figure out, sort of thinking in public, trying to figure out why are our American comics not doing as well. And there's a couple reasons, I think. Now, these Lone Wolf and Cub books, I believe, are from the 70s, so they really don't, it's not a one-to-one comparison. But when you look at manga, it's all about the story. And the graphic art in manga is very clear uh, and very well storyboarded out. Whereas if you look at modern comic books, the panels all run together. It's just like a big swash of color. It's very hard to follow the story. They forgot how to write stories. Where in manga, they tell stories, and they tell complete stories, and they have a lot more original stories by different creators. uh, they just don't have the same characters appearing over and over, rewritten and reimagined by different people. Also, they have many different genres in manga uh, that appeal to all different types of people, not just superhero books. I saw a tweet from someone recently where they were saying, well, look, in the 70s, in the 60s and 70s, there were superhero comics, sure, but there was also many other kinds of comics. There was, well, especially from the 50s, there was romance comics, which were popular with girls and women. There was a ton of war comics. There was horror comics. There was Western comics. There was different genres. And at a certain point, probably when Spider-Man was created, everything kind of went all, and then when they revived DC with the Justice League and all that, all these companies went full bore on the superhero stuff and superhero adjacent stuff. So that all could be part of it. Whereas in manga, anybody could read manga, any genre you're interested in, including just mainstream storytelling. You can find manga. So I think that's some of the reasons it's more popular. Don't know how I got off on that subject. Okay, what's the next one? But some people like the digressions. Okay, what is your favorite? Okay, so I guess I sort of answered that. Lone Wolf and Cub is what I'm reading that's kind of new to me. Uh, Goals. Do you have a specific reading goal or challenge for the year ahead? I have several. I have several reading challenges. I want to finish, at least try and wrap up a couple series that I've got going. I'm reading 87th Precinct. I'm not very far on that, 6 or 7 books, but I do want to kind of get going on it. Um, I want to read the full Dortmunder series by Donald Westlake. Westlake. I've only read the first and third novels on that. It's complicated, and I want to finish the Travis McGee novels, which I believe I've got about 6 left. And I want to read all the Conan Del Rey books, Del Rey collections. I've been working on that for a while. I'm almost done with Cull. Excuse me. Um, then I've got the 3 Conan collections. I've got the horror collection, and then I will finish up May, June with Ed Barak. And then I will read 2 biographies of Robert Howard that have come out in recent years. So that's kind of my big project I don't want to take on it. And other than reading Magic Mountain, those are the things I really committed to this year. Uh, and the other series I mentioned, there's a few other series that I've read before too. Basically, want to clear them out so I could start some new series. I want to read the Matthew Hope novels by Ed McBain as well. I haven't started those. So maybe I'll do those next year, or maybe I'll read them, I'll alternate them once they start. I'll alternate them with the 87th Precinct novels based on publication date. I'm thinking about doing that. Got it all charted out. I should also read all the Spider novels I've got, the Spider the Pulp character. I don't have all of them. I have about half of them, and I think probably once I read those, I don't need to be a completist on that. I want to get away from being a completist on something because it could really cut into your reading time if you're just reading every single thing a writer wrote just for the sake of it. Another reading goal is I want to get back into reading some poetry. Really, the only poetry. There was something happened to me a couple of years ago. I don't know what it was, where I just became. I was just done with poetry. It all seemed so fake, and really, the only ones I can read right now are the ones that make no sense. Uh, I still enjoy those. I still enjoy John Ashbery, uh, and I am reading a book by a person that he championed, a young woman who sadly died before her first book was published. See if I can find her name. Anyway, I'm reading that right now, and she's similar to John Ashbery, where she's very difficult to follow. Her work's very difficult to follow. I'll have to talk about this more at another time because it seems like a strange thing to do, to read poetry that's very inscrutable, but had having a time with it, considering how much I used to read, and at one point it just turned off in my mind, similar to what happened a couple years ago, or maybe even mostly last year, with watching movies, where all of a sudden, old movies I'm fine with, classic movies, but recently movies, the ones they've been putting out, I don't know if it's my imagination or what, everything seems, with a couple sections, everything seems incredibly fake. It seems like people don't know how to act. People don't know how to write scripts. People don't know how to frame the action, to like this thing. Everything just seems fake and incompetent. And poetry, this is definitely in my head, I guess, more than on the page, but I started to feel that way about poetry. I just felt like every piece of poetry I'm reading does not seem sincere. It seems really fake. Seems like the ideas, the emotions, the effects are all contrived and manipulative. So maybe I'm just reading it in the wrong way or reading the wrong kind of stuff. But John Ashbery is easy to read or interesting to read still because it really doesn't. I'll have to go into it more because he's a very strange poet, and how he appeared on the scene is to me a very strange thing. Um, the whole world of poetry is very strange to me. But I'm saying this is a person who wrote a lot of it at one point, and all the one day just could not write it anymore because it just felt like the most ridiculous thing to be doing, the most contrived, artificial kind of posing. So I'm becoming, I guess, more of a Philistine uh, when it comes to writing because I'm more distrustful of it, and I have a lot of problems even with the kind of poetry that I've been reading in Robert Howard. These Clark Ashton Smith, H.P. Lovecraft, who's the other one, and Howard, I guess, who wrote this kind of for their times, kind of already archaic poetry, which seems even worse than the modernist poetry that's being written at the same time. Anyway, people enjoy it, and more power to them. But I thought I'd try and get back into it by reading some John Ashbery, which I always enjoyed. Well, I originally didn't enjoy him at all, but then something clicked. I read a particular poem by him that was easy to follow. That was about another poet, and uh, I'm going to stop talking about this because it's really getting off topic, and I had not planned to talk about it today. I did read a book called The Hatred of Poetry by Ben Lerner, which is a very fun book, and it deals with some of those kind of issues. It's a prose book about how his own particular issues with poetry, and he is a poet. And then I tried to read his poems, and I liked his book about poetry, but I didn't like his poems at all. Uh, Poetry is a tough sell for some people. Some people like it. I don't know anybody else who's in the situation I'm in where they used to like it a lot and then just decided they hate it. It's all contrived. And anyway, like I said, I'm getting off track. So let me get back to the page. I'm not going to be able to find the name of that other poet, but I will talk about her book and John Ashbery's book that I'm both in the middle of right now. And I'll talk about those in a future video. Any other goal challenges? Probably that's about it. My other challenge, which sounds ridiculous now that I've spent so much time on this question, my other challenge is to not do as many challenges, to be more of a mood reader for the year. I am going to do, like I said, I'm going to do Howard's, the Del Rey collected horror fiction of Robert Howard. I'm going to read that for Mayhem, Horror Mayhem. And in June, I'm going to try and read as much short 60s and 70s sci-fi as I can because I still got a ton of that to read. And I lost it again. I lost the page again. New year, new me. All right. If you're still here, thanks for your patience. I'm almost done. I think there's only one or two more questions. Okay, bonus breaking walls. Do you have a non book related goal for 2026 that you wish to share? I have several. I have some fitness goals. I'm doing resistance training and stuff here at home. I think I've worked out a routine that's starting to work pretty well. trying to walk more consistently. It's tough right now because of the weather, and not the weather you guys have, but I'm below the equator. I'm still in Montevideo for another 5 days. I'm moving to a more temperate climate though, where it's not 95 degrees in the morning, and that'll help. I'm moving to a walkable city. A big goal for next year is it's going to be a major life change. Which will be my second major life change in 3 years, because 3 years ago I left the United States, started traveling. This is the next phase of that. I'll be vague about it, but I'll talk about it when the time comes, if it all comes through. So that's my big goal for the year. Should be accomplished by spring, I hope. I should be settled on all that stuff by spring. We'll see. It does take up a lot of my mental real estate, though. So, anyway, that is it. Tag others. Consider yourself tagged if you haven't done this. It is a little late in the season, I guess. We're almost in February, but for, like I said before, for me, that's good. And I'll put the, the prompts in there. I will put Kevin's video in, or I'll tag Kevin, and I'll put a link to Kelly's tag. And thanks everyone for sticking through this so far. Take care.